You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
Alrighty.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
History will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
All right, folks. Well, happy Thursday evening. I am Rick, one half of the Jenn and Rick Show. Jenn is with me, but she's actually on location at the, where are you at again? The Texas State GOP Convention?
Yeah, the Texas Republican Convention here in Dallas, downtown Dallas, at the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center.
So she's all out rocking and partying like the big rock star, and I'm at home. I'm pushing the buttons. So it's just how we roll.
Whatever.
Hey, it was your turn. I got to go to CPAC. You got to go to this thing. It's all good. So did you want to start out with that? Because I know you've had a lot of interesting things going while you were there. Was there anywhere particular you wanted to go to start the show?
Well, sure. I'll just do a quick touch of what I kind of got a taste for today. I wasn't there for the initial general session this morning, which saw quite a few decent speakers, including George P. Bush, our land commissioner. From most people that I talked to, he was a big hit. He's pretty charming. He's well liked here, and he's not. And it's not just because he's a Bush, but anyway. So his little spiel went over well. Of course, it's the first morning, so everybody's kind of invigorated, and it's very rah and all of that kind of stuff. I was waiting for the babysitter, and my mom was already over there, so she was texting me, kind of some of the play-by-play, and was super excited. Everything was feeling really good. I got over there this afternoon and was able to kind of explore a bit, and I was really kind of interested to see like what the pulse of, the people would be, the vibe, if there were, and because people come, like they dress, first of all, decked out in red, white, and blue, for sure, but also come wearing, things of candidates that they support. There were actually more than I would have expected. Ben Carson gear. There is just an incredible amount of Cruz support, which is not shocking, except for that, what we've been told is that, everybody, the majority of the GOP, especially a bunch of these like local and grassroots people, like they're all into Trump. Well, guess who's here? I mean, the GOP, the Texas GOP convention is not a bunch of elites. There are the elites, of course, but you're talking about all of the little delegates and alternate delegates and guests of the delegates and guests of other media members and people that are here that are from, podunk Texas. This is not all your, wealthy or political insiders. So it really kind of gives you a view of what's going on here. And I was already told Rick this earlier, but I was able to sit for about 15 to 20 minutes and just people watch. And there were, there was a group of very well-dressed men in suits, very handsome, 25 to 35 age range, that were passing out stickers that said, defeat Hillary, vote Trump. Both exclamation points.
You got me excited for about 30 seconds there. If I hadn't already had this conversation with you, I'd have been like, woohoo, but I forgot.
I just messed that up. Dang it. So defeat Hillary, vote Trump. And they're standing there passing out these stickers. And I'd already been forewarned. My mom was like, she sent me a picture of it and said, look what the guy gave me. And I'm like, why did you take it? But, she does. She's nice. She's polite. She's a very sweet woman. She's not really going to be like, no, I'm sorry. But a lot of people did. And I sat there and watched as people either laughed. There were not so many straight up rejections, but there were a few. I mean, there were some people that were just like, no. And just like looked at them like, what are you thinking? And walked away. And I overheard a conversation with this older couple and one of the guys asking like, so what group are y'all with? Who are y'all, where are y'all from? And they're like, oh, well, we're not from Texas. And they're like, well, why are you here? Where are you from? Well, we're with the national GOP. So I don't know I know that they send representatives to every state convention. I don't know if this was like volunteers, if they actually like work for the GOP or what it was, but they were simply just handing out stickers. So it didn't go too deep. But so they were with the national GOP that were the only set of people that I saw handing this out were presumably with national. And they were getting laughed at, eyes rolled, and straight up denied left and right for the 15-minute period I sat there and watched while I ate my little lunch. So that was kind of amusing. And I was kind of like nice to know that like Texans weren't just all like, okay, well, now that it's over, now that Cruz dropped out, I guess we're just all in for Trump. I mean, people aren't being that easily swindled, I don't think. And there's a lot of talk about down ballot. There's a lot of talk about all the other important things going on in the next couple years that aren't just about the presidential election. So that's encouraging too, that people really are listening. They're going to these caucus meetings that were here at the convention. They're getting up and leaving major speakers in order to be at things that have to do with their districts and precincts. So people care, and it's not just about Trump and Hillary. So that's really nice to know and see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure things like that are going on everywhere, but it really doesn't surprise me with Texas. I think the one thing that I've come to realize is exactly what you just said. For me, the near future isn't going to be so much about the presidential elections as it's going to be about the down ticket stuff, about finding ways to build up a grassroots movement to basically find conservatism a new home, because I kind of feel like we're homeless right now. The Democrats don't want us. The Republicans don't want us. Of course, the Trump Republicans think they're the new conservatives, and as far as they're concerned, they're more conservative than we ever were, because they're the ones that want the wall and they want immigration to be stopped and yada, yada, yada. There are so many other things besides that embody conservatism, and they're just turning their back on all of them for those two things. And it infuriates me. But it's so nice. I mean, I'm glad you went there, and I'm glad that you were telling folks about that, because when you look at it from a national scope, especially if you're getting things from the echo chamber, where all you really listen to are folks like Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and Laura Ingraham and everybody else, it's all parties over, unite behind Trump, we've got to defeat Hillary. But it's nice to know that in smaller pockets, at least, people are still using their brains and going, no, I'm not sure he's the guy. I just wish we could have conveyed more of who the guy that actually could have helped America was. I don't necessarily know if Cruz was the perfect guy for the job, but he was the best of the ones that was left.
Right.
I still think he would have done a much better job than either of the idiots that we're about to put up now. But I get into arguments with folks about that all the time, because I have a lot of folks that are either libertarian or some are even flat out liberal, and they tell me that they're completely terrified of Cruz because he comes across as an ideologue. And
right. And I understand that, but I think when you talk to the average, I'm not going to say Republican, but average conservative, they're going to look at, okay, ideologue, kind of a lectury preacher type versus an all-out authoritarian populist. Yeah, I may not totally dig Cruz's style, and I may think he's a little, over the top in certain ways. But I'm going to go with that versus the other, especially with his constitutional, strict constitutional law background. But I know a lot of people, they just didn't like his personality. That just put him off. That's the bottom line. And that's unfortunately the way a lot of our populist votes is on kind of, the cult of personality.
Unfortunately, you are probably more right than anybody wants to admit, and it's exactly what we've been talking about now for the last two cycles, which is why I honestly thought that this time around, since our side was the one that had a really good shot at putting somebody in the White House, we were going to actually not be the cult of personality party. But apparently, not only was I mistaken there, but there are a lot of bigger name folks in conservative talk radio that are talking about the fact that the Republican is now a populist party, and as far as they are concerned, it should have been that way all along.
Oh, gosh, I know. And doesn't it just make you sick? Well, I wanted to talk about a couple other things that
Sure.
some sessions I went to and things that I did today or what I witnessed. One of them being that, so Greg Abbott, our great governor of the state of Texas, who, by the way, part of the reason that I'm not completely disheartened by whatever happens with the presidency and the nomination here coming up is because I'm lucky enough that I live in a state where my governor has gone head to head with the current administration, but not just the current administration, but also laws, rulings by judges, things that he has felt and he has been driven by the people of Texas to stand up for and say, no, that's wrong. I don't think he stops just because we have a Republican president. I think he continues to fight for what he thinks is right and what the people of Texas would want. So that's one reason why I can be kind of like pat myself on the back and be like, yeah, but we got Abbott, so we're going to be good.
I have Mary Fallon, so meh.
I know. Mary Fallon, didn't she recently say that she would consider a VP position with Trump?
I believe it was extended to her. And this is coming from a guy who actually has met the governor.
I didn't hear that it actually came from her mouth, but I heard that it was thrown around and that it was receptive.
Yeah.
That she was just receptive to it, which is disappointing as all get out.
Well, she had indicated that she would be receptive, and this is coming from a guy that's actually met the governor a few times, talked to her, used to have her press secretary's card till they actually listened to the show once right before she was going to come on, and they happened to catch the episode where I tore her apart for some of her decisions, and I basically was told never to call that number again. But yeah, so anyway, and that's the thing, because at first Mary Fallon did a really good job, In the beginning, I think. I mean, it's really kind of hard to tell because the thing with both state and federal politics is it usually takes a couple of years to get the kinks out before you realize, are the things that you're doing working or are they not working? And that's one of the things.
Well, I'll tell you what I think about her, though, is that like she was standing for the right ideals. Maybe everything didn't come out so well in practice, but I think initially, like the intentions, the ideology she was trying to like push forth was something to be admired and something to like applaud. And however the cookies fell, that's kind of always our problem with politicians is we can't always trust where it's going to actually lead.
Yeah, unfortunately. And it's just one of those things where, not everything that looks good on paper is going to work very well in practice. And I think part of where she made a mistake, and this is happening with a lot of conservative governors, because we have this big thing between the federal and the state governments about separation of basically 10th Amendment. I think what starts causing problems is when the local governors start having the same approach with certain things that between states and the federal as they do between themselves and the cities and towns. Because I heard her say more than once that as far as she was concerned, like with the storm shelters, that should be something that would be dealt with town by town by town, when a lot of us were saying was, look, just do something to get some money into the budget so that the schools that can't afford them can get storm shelters put into them. And we've wanted that ever since that last round of tornadoes when a bunch of children lost their lives. And her pat answer to that was, I think that should be something that would need to be handled by the cities. That was actually one of the first things she'd ever said that completely just rubbed me the wrong way, and it's kind of been downhill since then.
Well, and I get it. Like the thing with me is that like I view federal versus state versus local very differently. Like if there are things that locally people want to do and are voted on, then I think the state should, for the most part, leave them alone. But if the locality needs help, if a municipality, if a certain city needs help, then the state should come to that aid. That is part of the purpose of the state, not the purpose of the feds, but the purpose of the state to do so. And people go, well, why do you believe in limited, government and you believe in like state rights, but then you don't believe in like city rights and this, that? No, I do. But you're talking about aid versus autonomy. And I'm saying that like the city should be allowed to have some sort of autonomy in certain things to make certain rules. And then the state should step up and help out in like what you're talking about in poorer areas that can't afford some of these things and people die because of it. I mean, that's not unreasonable to look at.
No, and that, like I said, that was one of the first things that she did when I was like, I don't necessarily agree with that decision. I mean, I understand the mindset that it comes from, but I disagree with it because I think what works between the state and the federal dynamic is not necessarily the same thing that the state should use with their own local dynamic, because it's a completely different ballgame. And there should be funding available for things like that, especially in a state like mine where, I mean, you could wake up one morning and there could be 14 tornadoes before breakfast. Uh-oh.
Sorry, I got out of a little bit of range for a second. But okay, so let me finish up about this thing with the convention so that we're not talking about this the entirety of the show. But I then went to what they so Abbott, and I went off on a tangent on Abbott, but Abbott has these things that he does at various events that he participates in, but especially at like the convention that we're having now, called Abbott U. And so it's like called Abbott University, and they hold different sessions of different things. One of them is like voter registration, in which you can become actually like certified to where you are able to register anyone at any moment. You're actually like, you're official, I guess, to be able to do so and help someone, like help voters get registered. Anyways, there are 4 or 5 different topics. One of them though was social media. And I thought, well, looking at what I'm, doing and my activity on Twitter and everything, like I'll go to the social media one. I'll see what they have to offer, what they say. And I walk in And I go and sit down, and there is one of Abbott's people that I recognize, Jordan Root, and he's up at the podium, and we get started, and there's a woman behind a computer, and I can't really see her because I'm really short, so I'm sitting down in my seat, and so I can't really see her face over the computer very well. But I'm kind of like, I think I recognize her. I don't know. She pops over every now and then. I'm like, I think I recognize this girl. And then he says, yes. And after I speak and show my little short presentation from, what I've done with, Governor Abbott and our views on social media, then I'm going to turn it over to our special speaker, Sarah Rumpf. And I about fell out of my chair because I just love her. She's amazing. If everybody doesn't follow her, you should. On Twitter, she's at Rumpf Shaker. She gave a great little story about why she became that. So she was basically the key speaker in this social media session, and there were so many great tips and points. And that was such a thrill to just like be kind of that thrown into it with me. But I think that one thing that they said that is so true, and I think all of us can kind of agree with, is that for the most part, Twitter is a place where people are already there with their mind made up. And we all try to argue on Twitter all the time. And we really go after people on Twitter. And we're just not really doing much good because there are very few hearts and minds changed in just a single Twitter argument. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't promote your blog, your show, your various different sites and things like that. That's not the same thing. But just the day-to-day, like individual battles with people that we all get wrapped up into are not necessarily effective. And I'm like sitting there nodding my head going, yeah, but they're so fun. And I just want to kick their butts. But they're right. I mean, how many times do I change that one person that I'm arguing with like crazy on Twitter? Do I change their mind? You don't. It's just like an anger thing. But campaigns can be done well, and that can all, lead to more reach and to more and to be able to actually like get your message out to a lot more people than you thought. They really hit on the whole thing about whether you put a name after what you write or whether you put a dot before the @ of a tag name on Twitter and what a difference that makes. And I think a lot of people don't realize that or know it, that if you just respond to someone at so-and-so, and that's the first thing that comes up, the only people that really see that are mutual followers of yours.
Wow, the Texan went Brooklyn there for a minute.
What?
You were all like mutual followers. It's like all of a sudden
mutual followers. I know.
The Texan went to Brooklyn.
Yeah. Well, I did live in New York for a time, so I do relate. But so I think a lot of people don't realize this, that like you may get something that comes into your feed from someone that you follow when they responded to someone and didn't like put the period in front of it or didn't respond with their words in front of the handle. But for the most part, Twitter's rules are like you respond to that handle, and the only people that see it are you and mutual followers. So if I tweet Rick right back at him without putting words in front of it or the dot in front of it, most of the people that will see it are just people that follow the both of us. So your reach is not very far. People don't really see it. If you put your response ahead of the handle, then all of your followers see it. And beyond that, sometimes people's followers that are tagged in it see it. Same thing with putting like that period in front of the @ symbol for the handle. And there are people in the audience that I just saw like light bulbs going off. Like, oh, I had no idea Yeah, and I think maybe the average Twitter user doesn't really understand that either. I'm trying to think of there were a couple really like great things that she was talking about. Oh, she was talking about like saving tweets, like deleting tweets, and that how just as of I think 2014, the Library of Congress catalogs all tweets, so they're saving all of them, whether you delete them or not. So regardless if someone screen caps them, regardless if they're in an internet cache, like the Library of Congress has your tweets. Even if you delete them within, a few hours.
When Trump goes to the White House, I'm going to jail.
Well, I mean, and all of us are going to be rounded up, I guess. But luckily, the Library of Congress doesn't directly answer to the president, so he might have a little bit of. I don't know. He's such an authoritarian.
That's why I said yet. Oh my God.
Right.
Oh.
Anyways, it was just a really good time. I thought they brought up some really good stuff. They talked about, if you're looking at getting out any message, and anybody can do it. You don't have to have some profound thing. Like, you don't have to be like a major blogger or like a radio host. Like, you yourself, just having a message, having something that you're passionate about, whether it's like a certain set of conservative values that you really want to push. If it's like pro-life, if it's limited government, whatever, like you on Facebook and Twitter have a real opportunity to reach a lot of people. And the best way to do it is to use a few hashtags that are like really key and pointed, have very clear language in, very clean tweets or posts, and to add a link or a picture, but not the long link. Where it has the link where it brings up like the little subverted media link that you click on that has like a picture next to the article, or a picture of what you're doing, where you are. That all of those things are way more effective in driving up viewership and clicks and all of that to really spread your message and get the word out about what you want to talk about, what you're interested in. And that was really good for just like the average person. Like, you don't have to be some sort of like Twitter celebrity or Facebook celebrity, Vine celebrity to have an effect on social media. Like, it all is grassroots. And that's just another piece of the puzzle. So it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that would have been a nice one to sit in on, I think. So just to make sure that I understand, so let's say for the sake of argument, you and I are tweeting back and forth. So what you're saying is if I put what I want to say in front of your @ symbol, everybody's more likely to see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Which is why you will notice, and if anybody goes to my TL, that's 99.9% of what I do. And I got this tip actually from someone a while back. I'm trying to remember who it was. I can't even remember. I wish I could, because I would give them total credit. But they were telling me like, hey, if you're trying to like, you want other people. And some people take it harshly. Like, some people take it as in like you're calling them out, or like you're trying to put your followers, you're trying to put them on blast to your followers. That's not always the case, though. Like, sometimes I'm responding to someone because I do want this to be seen. I want this response to be seen, and I want what it was in response to be seen, other than just the blank retweet. And I want the follow-up to be seen. So there are multiple reasons why to do it. I've had a couple people that I've kind of had a falling out with that have been like, oh, you just want your followers to see and then be mad at me because we're disagreeing about this. I'm like, not in the least. That's absolutely not what I'm talking about, why I'm doing this at all. It's not my strategy. But so I felt a little vindicated, a little redeemed today when they were saying that. So you either put the period in front of the @ symbol, or you respond before the handle if you want maximum reach on what it is that you're responding to and talking about.
Well, see, that explains something that I hadn't been able to figure out, because I noticed that some of my tweets were getting, because I don't know if anybody knows this, but if you go on and you tell Twitter that you're going to sign up for the ad thing, but then you don't put any credit card information in, it still starts tracking your organic reach for you. So I'm a numbers guy. So I look at numbers for stuff all the time. That's why I do all the other work that I do, because numbers are how I make my money. But anyway, so I had noticed, and I couldn't really find a correlation. Some of the tweets were getting much, much better reach. And it seemed like when I would look at them, they were the ones that didn't just start out with the @ symbol. So I was starting to kind of figure that out on my own. But then having you say that, I was like, this explains something I've noticed over the last couple of days.
Yeah, and like I was saying, like it's not something that's spelled out very well. Like you don't see very many examples where it tells you that's how it works. It's kind of one of those little like Twitter secrets, I guess. And I seriously, I'm so annoyed that I can't remember who told me in the first place, because if I could, I would give them all the credit in the world. But it was reiterated at Abbott University's social media session, which was it was really informative. It was really great. And I'm glad that they did stuff like that here, other than just talking about the various different votes coming down in senatorial and congressional districts, and then also the presidential election. It's neat that they're educating, their people here beyond, and how to make the conservative message really reach farther than just come to this or go to that event and vote this way
or follow Trump or else.
Really, really inspiring.
All right, so for those of you just tuning in, this is the Jenn and Rick Show. We've been discussing the Texas Republican State Convention, also discussing the fact that Jenn spent a good part of the afternoon in a social media group talking about how to extend reach. For everyone who is helping to fight Trump, please pay attention to what she just said. Anybody who's helping Trump, forget everything she just told you. No, I'm just playing. All right. So at this point, folks, it is about time for us to go ahead and take a break and pay some bills. On the way out the door, I've been promising Jess from Jess's POV that I would start talking about the fact that she is trying to put together a Memorial Day special here at K98 Talk. So if you know anyone who has done military service who has a good story, feel free to email her at Jesse's POV at K98talk.org. If you've done some service yourself and have a good story, if you know someone who paid the ultimate price and you want to tell their story, send her an email. We're trying to get as many of these things put together as we can so that we can put together as much Memorial Day content specifically for that as we can, because whether anybody wants to tell us we are or not, we are still conservatives, and we do care about the cost of what our freedom actually is, which is, freedom is it's paid for in blood, and a lot of people don't want to think about that anymore. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's gotten so easy for everybody to just say, it's not what it was cracked up to be once. We want somebody to take care of us. No, that's not what this country was founded on, and it's not what very many of us actually want, despite what you may think if you spend 5 minutes on social media. All right, so on that note, folks, we are out. It is time to pay some bills. We'll be right back here in just a couple minutes after we do just that. So bear with me for just one moment here, because I realized that I had been talking this entire time and not doing my host monkey duties. So I'm going to prattle on again here for another moment. Good job, Sparky. Good job.
Host monkey.
Host monkey fail. All right, folks.
I think of JD every time.
We'll be back here in just a couple minutes.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
History will record with the greatest astonishment.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
As a mother, you don't want to have to worry about this bill is coming, but then she needs this chemo. That's a decision you shouldn't have to make.
At St. Jude, a family never sees a bill at all. It's like the world has been lifted off of your shoulders.
The treatment doesn't get any better than what you receive at St. Jude. It saved my life. It saved my daughter's life. It saved our family.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures. Saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is the Jenn and Rick Show. We have been discussing the Texas Republican Convention and social media tips for anyone who's helping to fight Trump. Anyone who is not helping to fight Trump, please don't listen to the last few minutes of the show. No, I'm just kidding. I know I said that on the way out. I had to say it on the way back in just because, for the record, now look, everyday normal Trump supporters, I don't mind you guys very much. You've made your decision. You're going to run with it. I understand that. I respect that. Nobody's telling you not to vote. But you like crazy, dyed-in-the-wool, Kool-Aid drinking, Trump's the best guy ever, he's the Messiah, he's going to save the entire world, guys. Yeah, y'all need to just sit down. Just saying.
Exactly. There's a vast difference.
I mean, I don't think that's the thing that anybody understands. And I think one of the things that annoys me about this election cycle most of all is this whole, if you are not on board with Trump, then you are automatically supporting Hillary Clinton. And I mean, I even got that today when I tweeted out about Laura Ingraham, because she actually, I guess she got stuck in an elevator a few days ago, and she was like doing random tweets while she was stuck in the elevator, and somebody tweeted out to her about her saying that the Republican Party is now a populist movement, is where it should have been all along. And he was like, hey, thanks for abandoning conservatism for your new populist party. And she's like, it's better to be stuck in an elevator than to be stuck in irrelevancy. And I'm like, do you realize you just said that about someone that was talking about conservatism? Last I checked, we were the ones paying your bills, woman.
Right. I mean, I feel like we are the crazy ex-girlfriend that like couldn't see the, jerk off boyfriend for what he was. Like, we are like, oh my God, like, I can't believe you're doing this to me. I can't believe you're getting this way. Why are you acting like this? When they're like, oh, honey,
don't make me a sandwich. This is how
it was all along. Deal with it or not. And I do kind of feel that way. Now, I don't feel like that about every single pundit, but some of them I'm like, oh gosh, I should have seen the forest for the trees. Like, you actually do have populist leanings. You are actually a little bit more on this side of things than it. And I don't know. I don't know if it's that some of it I think is blind faith. Some of it I think is being fooled a little, but I think, I don't know. I think that some of it we like put too much into them, and we put too much trust and faith and belief into them and their values, and allowed them to speak for us in a way that they could never possibly live up to, because that's not really the way it is for them.
And I talked about that a little bit on the WNJC show today, because I told everybody, I said, this all started as this crazy idea where at some point I was going to be able to quit my day job and become a talk show host and make a little bit of money. And, I may get there at some point. I mean, we're seeing a little bit of money from it here and there, but none of that matters anymore. I've actually, the guy that actually runs the block over on WNJC, the Conservative Commando Radio Network, has actually compared me to Rush Limbaugh, and said that as far as he's concerned, if I keep doing what I'm doing, I may have a good chance at being the next Rush Limbaugh. I got to tell you, the first time he said that to me was at CPAC. Well, the first time he said it to me in person, and I could look at him and look him in the eye and realize he was serious, was at CPAC. Every other time we'd ever talked was on social media, and I just figured he was blowing smoke because the check kept clearing, because or the ads were coming in, or whatever the case may be. But the one thing this election cycle has taught me is none of that matters. I don't care how much money I'm making off of this. I don't care if I ever become famous. I'm not doing this for those reasons. Now, there are times when I lose sight of that, and I'll get frustrated because I feel like we should be further along than we are. But at the same time, that's not why I started any of this. I started a lot of this to try to make some form of a difference. And the funny thing... And the funny thing about that is, there was somebody who tweeted me earlier who I know at some point had to have listened to my show, because on the America Off the Rails show for the longest time, and I still do it when I remember it, I would always say at the end of the show, it's time to get off the couch, put down the remote, and get involved. Somebody actually quoted that back to me and said, guess what? Your message got out. We listened. We voted Trump. That hurt.
Yeah.
That hurt a lot. It's like, so the one thing that you heard that I've said was to get off the couch, put down the remote, and get involved. Forget everything else that I said, and you threw my tagline right back in my face and said, hey, guess what? This is what you said, this is what we did, and now you got Trump. I was like, ouch, that really hurts.
Yeah, I think one thing that, like, it just after day one of this Texas Republican convention is that I've kind of taken away is that, like, that I've been so bummed. I've been so depressed about where this is all going. And it's like, RIP GOP. And, or like, I mean, I don't even care. Like, burn in hell, light it up, like, let it flounder. But being here and being around these people and hearing things and making small talk and just sitting next to someone and overhearing conversations, but making my own conversations with people, I'm re-encouraged, invigorated, all of those things, because it is bigger than just this like Trump thing. People are actually like inspired, driven, and motivated by way more than this populist candidate. These people are here at this convention before he was ever known to be the nominee. And they're here because they care about things going on in their communities, in their state, and for the love of this country. And that is something that is huge and can be easily kind of forgotten or overlooked when we're in this like knockdown, drag out fight. I'm really encouraged and inspired by the people that I'm sitting around and talking to just on this first day of this convention, that like there is so much more I don't know, hope, intelligence, insight, and everything else to this whole shebang than what we're, I think, giving some of the people credit for, just because we had a bunch of idiots come out and make Trump our nominee. And the media like completely perpetuated that. It was what they wanted. And they got it.
Well, yeah, the media perpetuated it because it's the same thing they've done the last two cycles. That's what I've been saying now for months. The media has found a pattern that works. They prop up the worst possible candidate, make them seem almost unstoppable, wait for them to get to the general election, and then hit them with everything they've got. And this will probably be one of the easiest times for them to do that, because you all know with the business deals that Donald Trump has made and the enemies that he's made, he's got skeletons in every single closet in every single home that he owns, and they know where they all are. And it's gonna suck.
Yeah, and I find it hilarious. Like I did overhear a couple people today that were like, "Oh, but just let Cruz be nominated to the Supreme Court. Like Trump will totally nominate Cruz to the Supreme Court."
No, he won't.
And but even if he did, what ground could he stand on? What ground could he stand on? He has called him a cheater, a liar. He has called him untrustworthy. He has called him someone who would steal, who would manipulate. I mean, if Trump goes before Congress and says, "This is my nominee for SCOTUS," Congress, assuming that we haven't lost a bunch of seats because Trump is the presumed nominee, assuming we haven't lost a bunch of seats, goes, "How do we trust your opinion? You're now telling us he's the most amazing man in the world and a constitutional scholar and should be held to the utmost, respect and degree. Before this, you were calling him Lying Ted every day in every tweet you ever did. You accused him of being a serial adulterer. You accused him of being an illegal immigrant and a Canadian at that."
Yeah.
For me, that's worse. Sorry, I'm from Texas. But
what are you talking about?
Than just the regular illegal. Oh, I'm gonna get people hating me now. They're gonna hate tweet me. And
what are you talking about, you hoser? Why you gotta make fun of Canadians, eh?
Yeah, what are you talking about? Oh, goodness gracious. Anyways, yeah, you have no legitimacy anymore. Like, your word means nothing. This Congress can rip that candidate apart because of what you've said in the past. So it's just, just makes me all angry. It's all stupid. Like I said, I'm really encouraged by what I'm seeing and hearing around here. It's a lot of people wanting to change things down ticket and not wanting to stay out of it just because they don't agree with who the nominee is. So that's a good sign. That's a good thing.
I don't get to do this much because I usually can't peruse the headlines and everything while I'm talking to the world because it's usually just me. But I just saw a drop from Politico. Apparently, these tariffs that Donald Trump has been talking about, how he's going to save the economy and save the world through tariffs. Apparently, according to Politico, Donald Trump's tariffs could cost the average U.S. household more than $6,000 a year, which would put it on par for the expenses for Obamacare. And since he wants to revamp and make Obamacare a single-payer system for a good portion of the country, that's probably going to go up. So you figure you add on about another $2,000 just for good measure. So between the changes to that and these tariffs, the average impact to the U.S. household will be $14,000 a year. That's about a third of what I make in a year.
No. This just cannot be so. Like, do not allow it to be so. His entire thing about tariffs is just, quite frankly, terrifying.
If it was that simple, somebody would have already done it.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be logical for 5 seconds.
A Democrat would have already done it.
I was going to say, if it was that simple and it was honestly going to work, Bill Clinton would have done it back in the 90s. I mean, look, if you go back...
Obama surely would have done it so that he would have been loved.
You think? But, I mean, and look, I've already said that as far as Clinton is concerned, if it wasn't for the fact that he didn't basically say this is a private matter between myself and my wife and then start trying to do crazy things like lob missiles at aspirin factories to detract from it, he probably would have gone down as a slightly better president, at least until we figured out that he was propping up half the bigger companies in the country to try to make sure that Gore got his shot at the White House, which is the real thing that actually started causing the drag on the economy for the Bush White House, but nobody wants to talk about that because we've all seemed to have forgotten how Enron tanked right after the Clintons left office, and all of a sudden there was all this paper trail that they were propping up. But yeah, let's give Hillary another shot at the White House. That sounds like a really great plan. But you want to take somebody that's just as bad as Hillary with business sense, with somebody that is as bad morally as Hillary, with actual business sense, with the ego of Obama, and put them in the White House too. Neither one of these people is going to do good things for the country. Neither one of them. I honestly don't know what we should do anymore. And I don't know. The more I try to think about it, the more I try to find a way out of it, the more I'm frustrated by the whole situation. Because we actually had a chance to put somebody up who was at least a conservative, which would have been Cruz. I mean, and granted, Cruz wasn't even in my top 3 for the longest time. And he wouldn't have been my first choice, and he wasn't my first choice. I wanted Walker. Even before Walker would declare, everybody would ask me who I wanted. Man.
Walker on paper is like the best for conservatives.
Yeah, Walker on
paper
is awesome.
I just don't know that he will ever have the charisma, personality, and mojo to be like the candidate we can get elected. But on paper, for conservatives, he is far and away an amazing candidate.
I mean, and he is, because, I mean, you see, and this is the part where I guess it fell flat for me, because you saw all the fighting that he had to do in his home state, and all the things that he overcame, and you looked at him, and you were like, dude, if he could do that at the national level, he's going to be a rock star. And then he got a chance to do it at the national level, and it's like he was sitting there at the World Series in front of the microphone trying to sing the Star Spangled Banner, and he sounded like Froggy from Little Rascals.
Well, but even more so than that, it was like he was standing there trying to sing the national anthem, and Carrie Underwood, Lady Antebellum, Whitney Houston, Beyonce are all surrounding him singing just as loud. And how do you make yourself heard and your version be the best? Like, he was completely surrounded by, the market was oversaturated. And with really good candidates, a lot of good candidates, and some of them way more interactive, way more charismatic, and to a certain extent more attractive than he is. So, and we can all pretend like that doesn't matter in politics. It does, though. It does. And it still is a form of entertainment, and that's what people will kind of base certain parts of it on. And he was lost in the crowd. But I do think he bowed out early at a good time that could salvage his potential run in the future. I think that absolutely makes it more easy for him to run in the future, because he did not wait to get into the ridiculous thickness of it where we're 6 debates deep.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is provided there's still a country to run for president for when it's all said and done.
Well, I guess that is the definite, thing, the hook there that matters.
I don't know. I can't believe that the American public as a whole gave up on the debates as early as they did, because Donald Trump was the one from the beginning that kept saying that he wanted to debate Cruz one-on-one because he was going to own him. And then there finally came the opportunity for him to do that, and he's like, we don't need to do these debate things anymore. We're going to go do this thing over here, and it's going to be huge, and I don't need to do those anymore. And everybody's like, yeah, well, I think we've had enough debates. Look, and it's the same thing that I've been trying to explain for forever. Look, I understand that our election cycle has gotten insanely long. I honestly don't like how long it's gotten. But we shouldn't have shortchanged the American people actually getting a chance to see those two actually talking to one another and debating one another without it being a Twitter mob war.
Yeah, I guess I just wish that, and I want that too myself, for me, for people like me, like you. But I guess I see kind of Trump's side of the thing is like, what does it matter? Because people, I mean, his supporters are just only being emboldened. Like, they're not backing down. Very few of people that like would vote for him or did vote for him in the primaries or would vote for him leading into the future could give, two poops about any of it. They like that. It won't matter what Cruz says. It won't matter how incredibly he destroys Trump in a debate and on policy and everything else. He will claim victory. His supporters will defend him. Cruz will be the bully. Cruz will be the boring intellectual that nobody cares about, and it doesn't matter what he said because tune it out, peanuts. Teacher, wah. And they'll, prevail in the day on it. I mean, so as much as I would like to see that debate happen, I do understand why from not only like a bunch of people that aren't so like invested what their point of view is on it, but also from Trump's side is like, well, we win in it either way because our supporters have already said they don't care if I shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue. So whatever, I'm done. I win. It doesn't matter. So I get why the investment is not made.
Yeah, they don't care if he shoots anybody. They don't care if he releases his tax returns, which is another poll that's been going all over Twitter that one of his followers started, and I guess there was like a 90% no vote. The question was, do you care if Donald Trump shows you what's in his tax return? I care because I want to know why. I want to know why he doesn't want to show anyone what's in his tax return. Because something that I found last night that I was going to talk about on the WNJC show today, and I didn't, was there was apparently a lawsuit where he lost millions of dollars, and he probably could have won the lawsuit if he had let them see his taxes, and he refused. Now you tell me why. Tell me why a businessman would lose I think it was $6.5 million. And even the attorney and the judge both said, if you'll just let us see your taxes, we can probably make this go away. And he refused. Okay,
put that link out. I want to tweet /blog /whatever about it.
I'll have to Google it and find it again. But I saw it's all over Twitter, so I'll find it.
But I mean, it's not surprising to me. It really isn't. It just, ugh.
Well, I mean, and the thing about it is, the rumblings are starting to be, and I understand they're just that, but it wouldn't surprise me. The rumblings are starting to be that one of the reasons why he continues to refuse to show anyone his tax returns is because he has ties to things he shouldn't have in his tax returns.
But don't we already kind of know this because of people he's been hiring and their backgrounds and everything going on? I mean, we assume that there are things there that don't need to be seen and people don't want to know. I mean, look at the thugs and bullies he's hiring and their ties to various different unsavory organizations. We are not exactly in the dark here about the fact that there may be some untoward dealings in Trump's past. But that's why he doesn't want to release it. Of course. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But that's why he doesn't want to release it.
All right. Well, believe it or not, we are about out of time. Why don't you remind folks that are listening around the world and through K98 Talk and everywhere else that this show can be heard, why don't you remind them where they can choose to, or if they choose to interact with you, where they can find you?
Okay, come find me on Twitter at jholmsted, HOLMSTED. Facebook, JR Homestead, search same kind of thing. And come check out a project I'm doing with a bunch of really smart people writing a lot of fun stuff at misfitpolitics.weebly.com. We also have a Twitter, and you can find us there, Misfit Politics.
All right, and in case we've got first-time listeners, I, of course, am Rick Robinson. I'm the general manager of K98 Talk, managing partner of the SparkRadioNetwork.com. You can interact with me multiple ways. You can, if you're old school and kind of like me, enjoy saying things that aren't necessarily 149 characters or less, you can shoot me an email at rick@k98talk.org or ricky@thesparkradionetwork.com. You can also follow my make a friends request on my professional page at Rowdy Ricky Robinson. You can just pull a search on there. It'll pull me right up. You can also follow along with the show's Facebook page. America's Coming Off the Rails is a Facebook page. You can go click like over there. I am on Twitter at AOTR_host. I do spend a lot of my time social media-wise on Twitter, mainly because for those of you who are not following along, it's now been confirmed that Facebook is a lying liberal rag. And Twitter, so far, while being liberal, at least is not censoring us yet. Notice I did say yet. But as far as anything else, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out to me. If you like what we're doing here, let me know. If you hate what we're doing here, I'm the guy that still gets the blame, so just let us know. And there was something that I wanted to touch on that I just saw in the chat room right before we started closing out the show. One of the folks in the chat actually mentioned that he's pretty sure that things like internet radio will be gone probably within the next 12 months, regardless of whether Clinton or Trump get the White House. I'm just going to go on record and saying this now because I don't care. Try shutting us down. I'll turn it into a pirate radio station. I don't care. All right, on that note, folks, we are out. I'll be back with you live tomorrow night for America Off the Rails. We have a new segment with Mr. Eric Williams that I'm hoping to get put together tomorrow night, and we'll actually do a retread of the Hillary email segment because I'm not sure if it got done on Monday because I was battening down the hatches trying to hide from tornadoes. So somebody was sitting in for me. And on that note, folks, we are out. Bye.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
History will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing into full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.